Welcome back, movie fans, and welcome back to Yousaf Reacts. Today, we're diving into the icy depths of the fantasy world with The Huntsman. Winter's War, the 2016 prequel-sequel to Snow White and the Huntsman. Whether you loved the first movie or you're just here for the action and magic, this film has something to offer. So, let's get into it. First, let's talk about the plot. The Huntsman, Winter's War is both a prequel and a sequel to Snow White and the Huntsman. The movie explores the backstory of the Huntsman, Eric, played by Chris Hemsworth, and the rise of Freya, the Ice Queen, portrayed by Emily Blunt. The film opens with the tragic tale of Freya, who turns cold-hearted after the loss of her child, and retreats to the north to build an icy kingdom, raising an army of huntsmen, one of whom is Eric. We also see the return of Ravenna, played by Charlize Theron, who is resurrected from her fate in the first movie. Together, the sisters aim to take over the kingdom, but Eric and his fellow huntsmen, including Sarah, played by Jessica Chastain, stand in their way. The film is a mix of epic battles, magical showdowns, and emotional conflicts, all set against a backdrop of stunning visuals. Now, let's talk about the characters. Chris Hemsworth returns as Eric, the huntsman, bringing his usual charm and physicality to the role. His character is a bit more fleshed out in this film, especially with the introduction of his backstory and his relationship with Sarah. Jessica Chastain's Sarah is a fierce warrior, and her chemistry with Hemsworth adds a nice dynamic, even if their romance feels a bit forced at times. Then, we have the two queens. Emily Blunt's Freya is a tragic figure, driven by grief and betrayal. Her character's icy demeanor is matched by her powers, and Blunt does a fantastic job of conveying Freya's inner turmoil. On the other hand, Charlize Theron's Ravenna is as delightfully evil as ever, reveling in her role as the Wicked Queen. Her return adds a sinister edge to the film, and her scenes with Blunt are some of the movie's highlights. The film dives into themes of love, loss, and power. Freya's transformation into the Ice Queen is driven by her loss, mirroring the idea that pain can turn people cold literally and figuratively. The theme of love is explored through Eric and Sarah's relationship, as well as the sibling bond between Freya and Ravenna. Although the latter is a twisted version of love, corrupted by power and jealousy. Speaking of power, the film examines how power can corrupt and isolate Freya, and Ravenna's thirst for control leads them down dark paths, showing that even those with the most strength can be vulnerable to their own desires. Visually, The Huntsman, Winter's War is a feast for the eyes. The movie's special effects, particularly in portraying Freya's ice powers and Ravenna's dark magic, are top-notch. The costume design and set pieces also add to the film's fairy tale aesthetic, making it a visually immersive experience. The battle scenes are well choreographed, though some might argue that the movie leans a bit too heavily on CGI at times. Eric and fellow warrior Sarah, raised as members of Ice Queen Freya's army, try to conceal their forbidden love as they fight to survive the wicked intentions of both Freya and her sister Ravenna. Evil sorceress Queen Ravenna's powers allow her to know that her younger sister Freya, whose powers have not yet emerged, is not only involved in an illicit affair with an already elsewhere engaged nobleman, Andrew, but is also pregnant with his child. Sometime after Freya gives birth to a baby girl, Freya discovers that Andrew not only reneged on his promise of elopement with her but also murdered their child. In a grief-fueled rage, her broken heart freezes over and she kills him with her sudden emergence of powers, the elemental control of ice. Devastated by a cruel and terrible betrayal, the evil sorceress Queen Ravenna's once kind younger sister, Freya, renounces love and sees her dormant magical powers emerge. Transformed into an all-powerful ice witch with a frozen heart, Freya retreats to her new kingdom in the north, devoting all her energy to raising a large and invincible army of orphans from the conquered lands, her mighty huntsmen. However, in this icy realm where love is a sin, two dauntless warriors, Eric and Sarah, dare to defy the Queen's decree and fall for each other, only to face the disastrous consequences. Now, more and more, the sinister black magic that imbues wicked Ravenna's gold magic mirror becomes stronger. Is there a way to stop the advent of the indefatigable dark adversary? With the mirror at her command, Ravenna was invincible. Ravenna had just conquered a kingdom by killing its king in a game of chess. Ravenna takes over the kingdom with her sister Freya at her side. Ravenna tells Freya that all the women of their bloodline are gifted, and in time Freya will find her powers, as Ravenna did hers. Long before her death, the evil Queen Ravenna Charlize Theron learns that her younger sister Freya Emily Blunt is not only engaged in an illicit affair with Andrew, Duke of Blackwood Colin Morgan, but is carrying his child, who is destined to become fairest of them all. Ravenna tells Freya that Andrew is engaged to someone else, and in time he will deny Freya as well as her daughter. Sometime after Freya gives birth to a baby girl, Freya discovers that Andrew has murdered their child. Andrew came to meet Freya with the promise to marry her, but ends up setting fire to the baby's crib when Freya was not there. When caught, he simply says that he had no choice and, in a grief-fueled rage, kills him with her long-suppressed ice powers. Freya abandons the kingdom and builds herself a solitary ice palace deep in the north, murdering anyone who opposes her while amassing an army of children and training them so their hearts will be forever hardened. Her army is called the Huntsman. Freya forbids love in her kingdom. Freya built a castle of ice and turned the lush green lands of the north into a frozen wasteland. As time passed, the children grew to become soldiers. The soldiers include Eric, Sarah, Tul Soap Derisu, Pippa Sophie Cookson, Leifer Sam Hazeldine, and others. The queen sent her army to wage war against the kings of the north, and they repeatedly emerged victorious. Eric Chris Hemsworth and Sarah Jessica Chastain, two of her most exceptional warriors, fall in love and plan to elope. Sarah gifts Eric a medallion that belonged to her mother, only to learn that Freya is aware of their secret. She confronts them and creates a massive ice wall to separate them before forcing Eric to watch as Sarah is killed by her fellow huntsman. Eric is banished from the kingdom and his near-lifeless body thrown into the river. As Freya's kingdom continues to rise, Ravenna's kingdom falls at the hands of Snow White and the Huntsman. 7 years later, and after Ravenna's death, King William Sam Claflin of Tabor comes across Eric, who has been living as an outlaw in his kingdom. William informs him that the magic mirror was taken while en route to a place known as Sanctuary. William says that Ravenna's dark magic lives in the mirror, and Snow White had vowed to be rid of it before its darkness cannot be stopped. Eric is the best tracker William knows and wants him to locate the mirror, as it should not fall into the hands of the wrong person. William says that Snow White is unwell, and he suspects that it has to do with the mirror. Eric reluctantly sets off with Snow White's Kristen Stewart William's wife, dwarf ally Nyan Nick Frost, and his half-brother Griff Rob Brydon to find the magic mirror. Eric becomes aware that Freya has been secretly observing their conversation through a mask that projects her consciousness in the form of a snowy owl, and he destroys it. Eric asks William to move all his armies to the northern borders to protect against any attacks from Freya. Since Freya has seen Eric alive, she sends her huntsman after him. Freya also wants the mirror, which belonged to Ravenna. She knows that the mirror holds great powers, and she wants the mirror for her own conquests. Eric tracks the mirror and comes upon a camp where the Queen's Guard in charge of transporting killed each other. Eric also finds one arrow embedded with diamonds which did not belong to the bandits, and those creatures are the ones who have the mirror now. While en route, the trio are attacked by a legion of Freya's huntsmen, but are rescued by Sarah, who is revealed to have been alive the entire time. Sarah believes she saw Eric run away from the palace and feels betrayed by him. Eric concludes her death was a vision conjured by Freya in order to trick him. Freya made them both see what she wanted them to see. Sarah was in Freya's dungeons for 7 years before she escaped and vowed to find Eric and take her revenge. He reveals that he never stopped loving Sarah, and they agree to work together. Sometime later, the quartet is ensnared in a trap laid out by female dwarfs Bronwyn Sheridan Smith and Dorina Alexandra Roach. They convince the female dwarfs to help find the mirror, who say that the mirror was stolen by the goblins after analyzing the arrow that Eric recovered at the location of the massacred Queen's Guard and agreed to take them to their hideout, close to the sanctuary. Goblins are famed to have a lot of treasure, and the female dwarfs ask for the right to carry back as much loot as they can, while Eric and Sarah look for the mirror. The group reaches the sanctuary, and they defeat the goblins. Sarah finds that Eric still wears the medallion she gave him. Eric was willing to sacrifice his own life to protect Sarah. And in turn, Sarah goes back to save Eric when he gets left behind, who possess the magic mirror. The group takes rest in the forest and decide to take the mirror back at daybreak. That night, Sarah and Eric make love. The next day, the group is ambushed by Freya. Freya reveals that Sarah was just using them to find the mirror the entire time. In the chaos that follows, Nyan and Dorina are turned into ice statues, and Sarah fires an arrow into Eric's chest at Freya's order. Freya departs with the magic mirror, but she is unaware that Sarah intentionally shot the arrow at a medallion she gave Eric long before, and that he is still alive. Meanwhile, Freya approaches the mirror and recites a spell that causes a golden liquid to emerge and transform into Ravenna. Ravenna reveals that she sent her spirit into the mirror before Snow White took her life. Meanwhile, Eric has infiltrated the Icy Kingdom with help of Griff and Bronwyn. He attempts to murder Freya but is stopped by Ravenna. When Freya realizes that Sarah hadn't actually killed Eric, she sentences them both to death because of Ravenna's influence. However, Eric is able to convince a few huntsmen to fight against Ravenna and Freya, claiming the love of brethren. After this, Ravenna begins killing many of the huntsmen. Freya realizes that she loves her huntsmen and forms an ice wall between the huntsmen and the sisters. As the remaining huntsmen climb over the wall, the two sisters argue over the Icy Kingdom. Freya discovers that Ravenna cursed Andrew into murdering her child rather than risk someone being more beautiful than she. Freya is filled with fury at this and turns against her sister, joining forces with Eric and Sarah. Freya is fatally wounded, but not before she freezes the magic mirror. As Eric throws his axe, breaking the mirror and destroying Ravenna's spirit. As she dies, Freya witnesses Eric and Sarah together and states they are lucky, and then succumbs to her wounds. As the kingdom's inhabitants and huntsmen celebrate their victory, Eric and Sarah kiss as they can now be together, while Dorina and Nyan, and Griff and Bronwyn, confess their love to each other. Meanwhile, a mysterious golden bird flies overhead, hinting that possibly Ravenna's spirit still lives. In conclusion, The Huntsman, Winter's War is an entertaining fantasy adventure that expands on the world of Snow White and the Huntsman. While it may not be a cinematic masterpiece, it offers enough action, magic, and drama to keep fans of the genre engaged. The performances, especially from Blunt and Theron, are strong, and the film's visual style is captivating. If you're looking for a movie with epic battles, powerful queens, and a bit of magic, this one's worth a watch. Thanks for joining me today. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more movie reviews and discussions. Let me know in the comments what you thought of The Huntsman, Winter's War, and what movie you'd like me to review next. Until next time, keep watching, keep exploring, and keep enjoying the magic of cinema.